All right. Gotta make sure we get the Facebook groups in here and save a couple change. Make sure those get in here so everybody over there can see. All right, looks like we could go. Welcome into another episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I'm your host today, Erick Trickel, and joining me this morning is Dylan Von Arx as Nick Kendell is MIA. Unsure what's going on, but hoping everything's all right there. Dylan, my man, how are you doing on this fine Friday morning?
Doing fantastic, and I'm just super excited and anxious for tomorrow's game against the Buffalo Bills. It figures to be a pretty interesting matchup, especially looking just through all the factors in the injury report. But overall, very excited to watch some Broncos football this week.
Yeah, I am as well. I am not gonna lie. I'm a little hangover this morning. Yesterday was my birthday and had some drinks last night, and so it's things are still a bit foggy. But I'm excited for tomorrow as well for this Bills game. And yesterday I was doing actually the last few days I've been getting a lot of not only behind the scenes draft work done, but doing a lot of preparation for this game. And I put out some articles, 2 articles that are 3 ways the Broncos can lose this game and 3 ways they can win. And the way that they coincide is actually kind of funny. And let me tell you what, even though the Bills are the 6th seed and, the injuries, there are a couple reasons why Denver should really be, or at least the fans should be really worried about losing this one. Obviously, the team, they're going to go in with this a lot of confidence. And I got to just to get in right into it. The first one is tackling. Josh Allen is the league leader in missed tackles forced and broken tackles for a non-running back. James Cook is 6th in broken tackles and 3rd, I believe, in missed tackles forced, and Khalil Shakur is 3rd in missed tackles forced for wide receivers. They do a great job of forcing missed tackles and breaking through tackles. And with Denver's record over this, they had, I can't remember how many missed tackles it was off the top of my head now over the last 5 games, but it was like almost twice as much as they were their season average leading up to that point.
Yeah, that's a pretty devastating stat line there, especially considering, like you mentioned, all the woes that the Broncos have had on defense, not securing tackles. We've seen it happen all over the defense at all levels, which is very disappointing, especially with how this season started and how dominant they are. And I just think back to the Jaguars game, Parker Washington especially. He absolutely torched the Broncos, and he even taking short passes for bigger gains than they needed to go. So that's how this Bills team is going to get life, especially with all the injuries. Gabe Davis down, Shavers down as well with knee injury, so they're not going to be playing. You cannot let Josh Allen, James Cook, and Khalil Shakir completely break this game open. The defense is too good to let that happen. Now, they do need to shore up that tackling, or this game could break wide open and be quite embarrassing of a loss for the Broncos.
And we have Donnie Herman saying, sometimes stats are the worst enemy. I get you're a stat guy, but let's not make it seem like the sky is falling. This is a winnable game. Close, yes, but winnable. Confidence goes a long way. I'm not trying to make it sound like the sky is falling or that, this isn't a winnable game. It very much is, and we're going to get into why Denver can win this game. I just wanted to get the tackling out of the way, because that is one of the biggest reasons why, if Denver loses this game, it'll likely stem from the tackling issues they had. You mentioned Parker Washington, where on 2 missed tackles, both by Riley Moss, he had almost 100 yards after the 100 yards receiving just after that. So it's definitely an issue for them, especially with, again, how big and physical this Bills offense is, or how quick they are in the case of Khalil Shakur in avoiding tackles and getting after it. Doesn't mean Denver can't win this game. Doesn't mean it's not a winnable game. It very much is. And it's just one of those things that you got to focus on. Adele Al Sanosi coming in saying, I worry about our defense. I worry about the tackling. That's why we started off with it. Outside of that, I don't have too many worries. I think they're going to be able to really focus in on stopping the run. And since I'm a stats guy, we can look at this. the Bills rushing offense. It's been a pretty good offense on the year. The Broncos defense has been a pretty good rushing defense. But ever since week 10, the Bills defense, they fell from first in DVOA to fourth. May not seem like it's that big, but it's the gap between first and fourth is bigger than the gap from fourth and like 10th or 15th or something like that. And then the Broncos offense or rushing defense, they went from third in DVOA to 15th, which is a smaller gap than the Bills gap that between first and fourth. Then it's a smaller gap than first and 15th for rushing DVOA. So pretty good sign there. But what makes it even more positive for Denver in that aspect is the Bills rushing offense comes through with heavy packages, which is where the Broncos defense has actually excelled. They've been one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL against heavier packages, which even during that downslide that they had ever since week 10, the bigger issue has come when teams are able to go light and continue to have that pass run diversity. And then with the injuries that the Bills have at wide receiver, they may not be able to live in that. And just got to give a shout out to Adele coming in from Brussels. This goes to show that, Broncos country, it's not a geographical location, but it's a state of being, as Chad always likes to say. But yeah, their rushing offense against the Broncos rushing defense, as long as they can tackle James Cook, I think the Broncos win that matchup.
Absolutely. And man, there's a good chance that these guys the Broncos, that is, really stack the box with how light the Bills are at receiver and kind of really press James Cook, really press Josh Allen from using his legs, because that's what it's going to come down to, is Josh using his legs and James Cook in the run game. And the Broncos kind of got bullied last time. Their defensive line looked light compared to the Bills, but you can't let that happen again. The running game is what we need to get going on our side. We need to get RJ Harvey going, because the Bills' rush defense is not so great. And while Harvey hasn't been great himself, that's something the Broncos are going to have to commit to. And as people always say, it's going to come down to the trenches. That's what's going to break this game open for either side. And the Broncos have to come out better than the Bills on that.
Yeah, definitely. And I have a lot more to get into about the Broncos rushing offense against this Bills rushing defense. Because let me tell you what, if there is a game where getting a consistent run game going is important, it is this one. We'll get into why here in just a second. But first, we're going to say hello to some more people in the chat. We have Denver Luke saying, morning, I'm about to leave the airport to fly out from Salt Lake to Denver. Well, I hope you enjoyed the game. I'm assuming that's what you're doing. I absolutely love Salt Lake and area. I have a bunch of family that lives there. Man, make the drive. I did. Beautiful drive. Absolutely love it. But no, I understand flying it. It's a fun flight too. Short one. We have Ernie Mason go Broncos country only. Tomorrow we go 1-0. Exactly. 14-3 doesn't mean much anymore now that you're in the playoffs. We have Perry West with a $20 super chat coming in. Thank you, Perry. We appreciate you saying good morning, guys. I'm worried about our defense this week, but hopeful the crowd can make the difference. Yes, and on this, make sure if you're going to be at this game, make sure you listen to what Sean Payton said. Be loud when they're in the huddle. That's when they are communicating. Be loud when they get lined up for the snap. You don't need to be loud. I mean, we were there for the Giants game, and even in previous years when we've been there, it's always fans get loud right when they break the huddle, and then they kind of quiet down when they're in line. It's like, no, you get loud when they're in the huddle, make it harder for them to hear what is being called. Then make it when they're getting ready to snap the ball, when they're lined up, get loud, then make it harder for them, try to get the false start. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're making it harder for them to communicate, making it harder to hear. David Vasquez saying play a really good zone and Broncos will win. There's been some issues with the Broncos running zone. Roy Osborne saying, hope you had a great birthday, Eric. I had a birthday. I'll just leave it at that. It was actually fine. There was a big fire actually across the river late last night, and I'm hoping that everybody that was there is okay. All the first responders are okay. It was a big enough fire that they responded all firehouses within the area, including firehouses that were an hour and a half away. So hopefully everybody's okay with that. Dave Vasquez adding, and disguise the blitz. That's not really Vance Joseph's thing, but we'll see. We have Todd Osendorf saying hello, Broncos country. Kirk Shaw saying hey guys. Mark Kennedy saying good morning. And we have Coach Chris with the $20 super chat. Thank you, Coach Chris. We appreciate that so much. Saying good morning. We need long, sustained drives to keep Allen off the field. And when in the red zone, we can't settle for field goals. We need touchdowns. I see Bryant having a huge game. Love the show, as you know. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Yeah, I mean, I've said this multiple times. The Broncos' issues over the last few weeks of having to settle for field goals and not get into the red zone, that is concerning, especially even when the offense was struggling earlier on in the season. The one thing that they were doing well was executing in the end zone and walking away with touchdowns and not field goals, only to see that flip. And I know that there's the popular theory about Sean Payton's play calling and him going more basic and more vanilla. Well, he kind of put a nix on that, saying that saying that he wasn't doing that. But that is definitely an issue. And those long sustained drives, that's part of why getting the running game is going, but there's even more to it. But keeping Allen off the field with how dangerous he is, how much he can will that offense to win and make big plays when needed, anything to keep him off the field as much as possible.
You're exactly right. And this man, he was the defending MVP. He could beat you with his legs. He could beat you with his arms. And when a play seems dead, it's never really dead with Josh Allen unless he's taken to the ground. Now that's going to be a tall task for the Broncos, especially with the pass rush. Jonathan Cooper has only had a half sack since the bye. Nik Bonitto didn't have a sack for about 3 or 4 games up until they played the Chargers a couple weeks ago. And they need to find a way to get home. You've got paid these guys big money to hunt the quarterback and take him down. And I know Josh Allen is a different beast. He's a different animal, right? But there's no excuses. This is the time to be aggressive on defense and make sure Josh Allen's uncomfortable. He's banged up as well. It's not just his receivers. And I can't remember the exact number for how the Jags got after him, but they can be had. This is not the Bills team from last year. Obviously have to respect how great Josh Allen has been, but don't fear him. You have to get after him as a defense.
Yeah, and Coach Chris also comes and says, I hate when they say Harvey isn't great. 12 touchdowns, one of the highest ranked back with explosive plays. Issue is the consistency and the success rate. I mean, he was in terms of success rate, which is that down to down consistency stat. He was one of the worst. He was bottom 5 in the NFL on the season for it. He did do a little bit better to close out the season, and he actually brought himself up from being bottom 3. Maybe he's bottom 10 now, but either way, he's near the bottom out of like 80 some odd running backs. So the 12 touchdowns is great. I'm not trying to take away from that. And he showed up big when needed as a receiver. He has really shown a lot of improvement as a blocker. It's just as a running back, especially after J.K. Dobbins went down, Denver needed him to step up to be that consistent top guy, and he hasn't been. And there's a reason why there's even a conversation going on right now from other sports media. We're not having this conversation, just to be clear. Other sports media that I've seen are having that conversation that if J.K. Dobbins comes back, who do you make inactive? And they're like, well, you don't make Tyler Bidet inactive because of blocking. I disagree with that. You don't make Jaleel McLaughlin inactive because he's being so hot running the ball. So you make RJ Harvey. Again, I disagree with that. It would be Tyler Bidet because J.K. Dobbins is a blocker. RJ Harvey shown improvement as a blocker. And RJ Harvey has 12 touchdowns. He's still a threat in the passing game. He still can be a threat as a runner because of those explosive plays. You just need that consistency for it. Can't be as boom or bust as it has been, and it hasn't been a whole lot of boom for him really.
Yeah, and Tyler Bidet adds nothing really to this offense. You talk about pass protection, that's all well and good, but every third down they seem to swing him out anyway, and he bricks the pass off his hands. So it hasn't been much of an asset this year, which sucks because last couple of years he's shown some signs of being a good back, but really hasn't gotten the touches, and when he has had the opportunities has failed miserably. And you talk about RJ Harvey, he is very inconsistent. Once you get to the red zone, he's been very good and catching passes, but you have to get to the red zone first, and you need to have more consistency out of your run game. You can't just trot him out there with his 2 point whatever yards a carry. That's just not what you like to see. So I'd like to have Jaleel McLaughlin see some more touches this time around, just because he seemed to do much more with the little opportunities he gets. And RJ's just not there yet. and I think it's a vision thing, which sucks. I know you and me, especially through the draft process, really harped on a vision as like a big thing that we are interested in, and RJ just doesn't really seem there quite yet. But hopefully, hopefully, he can get something going against this Bills rush defense that's not so great.
Yeah, and I want to correct myself. I just finally was able to pull it up. RJ Harvey is 17th worst rushing success rate in the NFL this season out of 49 running backs that qualified for it. So that's better. He's got a better success rate than guys like Ashton Genty, Bucky Irving, Alvin Kamara, Woody Marks, Saquon Barkley, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson. But his 39.7 success rate is still below the league average of about 45%. But it has significantly improved earlier on in the season, about week, what was it, 13, 14, his success rate was under 30. So he's definitely showed improvement over that the last little bit. Bugmeister saying happy late birthday, Eric. Thank you. I appreciate that. Harvey's been a gem in the red zone that he has. Let's see. Anything else in here, or can we? Well, before we go on, we're going to just go ahead and get to our presenting sponsor for tonight. So, everyone, the playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. It's time to get off the bench and in the game. Head over to Underdog. By the way, it's not just football. Whether you're into basketball, hockey, or any sport in between, Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action all season long.
Exactly. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like rushing yards, receptions, touchdowns, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash.
Yeah, I have so much fun playing Underdog, and winning money while watching football, that's a touchdown, you guys. Download the Underdog app today and sign up with promo code MHuddle to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code MHuddle. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you all be next?
Be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
And thank you, Underdog, for that. Well, it looks like we have Nick sitting in the background. It looks like he finally decided to wake up or hop off the pod or whatever the case it was. So is he looking to jump in here? All right.
I am. Yep. I had a technical malfunction. My phone died. I have a cordless charger, and it was not set on it correctly. So I woke up naturally at 6:55, and I was like, oh bleep. Well, I shook Natalie. I'm like, what time is it? And God bless her, because she ran out of here as well. So kid was sleeping in too. So typically that's not such a thing. But yeah, phone was phone didn't charge, or phone died last night. So hopefully that is not a metaphor for the Broncos, being asleep for the beginning of the game here. But yeah, thank you for setting it up and getting it going. And we're here. So good to see. Man, I'm so excited for this game too, Eric. I'll just let you take the wheel and I'll jump in, since I obviously missed the beginning part of the show. And here I am. Yeah, normally I make the bed too, but not today.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to say, Coach Chris, I got the Death Star for Christmas. It's actually sitting out there, and got new shelving. So I'm working on moving Lego sets around so I can get the Death Star, have a place to put that. But anyways, back to the Broncos and the Bills game. Yeah, as I was talking with Dylan to start the show, one of my biggest fears with this Broncos Bills game is the Broncos tackling issues of late. I mean, you have 5 players who are over 10 missed tackles on the season. All of them are starters. Yeah, Riley Moss, Talanoa Hufanga, Alex Singleton, Nik Bonitto, DJ Jones, sitting there at the top 5. And then you have on the Bill side of it, you have James Cook, who is 6th in broken tackles for running backs and 3rd in missed tackles for us. You have Khalil Shakur, who's 3rd in missed tackles for us. And you have Josh Allen, who leads the NFL in both missed tackles for us and broken tackles for all non-running backs. Tackling's important in this one. It's important in every single game, but against the Bills and how physical they can be, it's even more important.
To that point, I think obviously the Broncos understand that. I mean, they have eyes. They're not dumb. And my understanding is on Monday they had one of the longest practices of the year, as well, one of the longest physical padded practices of the year. 3 hours, I think, is what it was. And the Bills only had a walkthrough as well. And what did the Broncos work for those 3 hours? I mean, obviously, there's probably some installation too, but it was fundamentals a lot. So obviously, that doesn't mean it's going to be fixed by any means, because sometimes it's more of, who you are as a team. Like coaching and practice can only take you so far. But I do think that they understand that that has been a problem and something that they're going to work on and have addressed as well. But I mean, for me, the biggest thing that scares me in this game, and I'm sure you guys already talked about it, but the personnel has not changed that much from last year to this year. And last year, the Bills just simply leaned on the Broncos. So, I mean, Nik Bonitto is not bigger. Cooper is not bigger. Now, I don't know about Cooper. He's been cheating a little bit on some of his edge setting, but the Bills simply just leaned across on the Broncos last season, and they were washing them out. So I will be really curious. I mean, the Broncos obviously have watched. I'm sure they've obviously watched that Bills game from last season where they were assaulted on the ground. I mean, just like it was literally like, we know what you're going to do and we can't stop it. So hopefully they have a little bit more ability to stop that. Cause I don't know if the Bills can move the ball consistently through the air with their wide receivers right now, especially with explosives. So I think it really is going to come down to, can the Broncos, I mean, we talked about it a lot on Monday, but can they stop the run? Because if the Bills' size advantage that they had and the talent they have in the run game, it's going to be hard. And I think the key factor in this one that can maybe limit some of those big runs that were the successful runs from the explosives, you have healthy linebackers now relatively, but like last year it was Stranad and Barton, as well as having Hufanga. That changes things a lot. But at the end of the day, it's going to start with the defensive line and their ability to make those runs be 2 or 3 yards rather than 6 or 8. And if they can do that, they can win on first down. Everything falls into place. But if they're getting pushed back and beat up front with the run game, which the Bills are obviously going to lean into, anything can happen.
Yeah. And I'll say that one thing that Denver has going for them, even though the personnel is largely the same outside of Hufanga and Greenlaw, is DJ Jones probably just had the best year of his career as a run defender. Malcolm Roach as well. Zach Allen, John Frankenmeyers, all 4 of those interior defensive linemen, I think, are coming off the best year of their career as run defenders. Alex Singleton, he's here. He wasn't in this game last year, and he's a key contributor in the running game. And then you have Jonathan Cooper, and it has been a concern, but I think his concerns have been more so with his pass rush lane discipline instead of more so than run lane discipline. And then you have Nik Bonitto on the other side, who is still who he is. He's just an opportunistic run defender. But things are pointing in the Broncos' direction to have success there because of those injuries at wide receiver, being able to really sell out to stop the run and forcing them to go something to try to figure out something different. And good news for Denver is that they're actually better when teams go into heavier packages. They're better against the run there, and the Bills love to run out of heavier packages, especially with Jackson Haas, the rookie tight end, who we both wanted in the draft last year for his blocking ability. But he's in addition for this rushing offense that still gives me some concern with the Broncos' ability to stop the run game.
And that's one thing too about this is it's not like you're in a quagmire, if you will, about what personnel and run fits coverages to use, because they're explosive on the perimeter or they can spread you out and run it. They're going to run 12, 22, 13, a good bit, because they only have 3 healthy wide receivers. And outside of Shakir, they're not that good. I mean, Shakir's kind of a hybrid wide receiver tight end with how they use him in the slot and how good of a blocker he is. So, like, it's not like the Broncos are going to be run on because they're getting him in light packages. Like, they're going to get them into heavy and run on them. And that's a benefit to the Broncos. Now, I wonder what that is. Denver going to be able to guard the tight ends out of base? That's another question here. I don't think necessarily they'll be hitting explosives out of it. So I think I'm probably playing more to the down and distance than I am to the matching the personnel on some of that. Personally, just thought right now, I'm curious if you have any, if you're against that as well. But if it's obviously like 3rd and 6 and they come in 12, like we're matching with nickel. But if it's 1st and 10, we're gonna have to trust our coverage guys, and we're gonna be playing base because we have to stop the run. So it's gonna be a real interesting matchup for the Broncos. I would be really curious, and I haven't heard anybody talk about it, just how much they have reflected on last season's game and how that went, and if they learned anything from that. Because I know the game was like on the scoreboard close for a while, but like the Bills were beating the Broncos butts. If you look at like the success rate between the two, Denver couldn't do anything offensively after that first drive, and the Bills were moving the ball at will. Now, low possession game, score can be close. So it could be the other way for the Broncos in this one. They're beating them and it's close, and they should be. I mean, we've seen that the last 2 weeks, right? Like the Broncos are beating the heck out of them. The score is still close. So we'll see. It'll be really, really interesting. We got Todd coming in asking about his Sanders back. I know he was activated. Was he officially activated? I thought his practice window opened along with Kroll, but they haven't taken him. They haven't activated him off the practice window.
Yeah, this is one where the terminology is really annoying to me because whenever they open that practice window, it's always they were activated off injured reserve. They have their practice window open. They are not active. They are both out for this game. And from what I understand, Kroll has a chance to, if they advance to the championship game, Kroll has a chance to be an input player for there. Sanders is just kind of activated just in case of emergency kind of situation where if they suffer an injury, if Greenlaw suffers a setback with his hamstring, I think is what he's dealing with right now, or Karine Reed suffers a setback with the hamstring injury he was dealing with, then they have Drew Sanders' practice window open to where they can activate him off that. But I don't think he gets activated outside of that. And his practice window ends right before the Super Bowl. So that's kind of what they're looking at there with him. So I don't think that it's a guarantee he's back and fully activated off injured reserve. They just kind of open that practice window to give themselves their options.
Yeah. Well, gosh, we hopefully won't need Sanders, but as you mentioned, I mean, you have injuries happen, and he's probably better than activating one of your undrafted free agent rookies, maybe starting there at linebacker. I mean, he's been in this system 3 years now, so we'll see. And then Kroll, I mean, he's the world's best OTA player, so you got that going for you if he does come back too. But again, probably fourth on the depth chart. I mean, it does offer you a little bit more, I believe, in the pass game than maybe somebody like Atkins, maybe a little bit more athleticism than Troutman at this point as well. But he's more of a red zone kind of weapon, I think, at this point than anything, just because of the size and some movement skills, but not a good blocker, a little bit linear, not as athletic as Ingram, but in a bigger package. So we'll see. The real one to keep an eye on here, I guess, injury front. I'm not sure if you and Dylan talked about it. Again, thank you, Dylan, for hopping on and taking the wheel there for a little bit. But the real injury news, Eric, is obviously J.K. Dobbins. He is not back yet, but he had been doing work on the side in their last practice. So that is the first time I think anybody's seen him actually on the practice field. So that's a good sign. Now, if the Broncos do beat the Bills, and don't want to put the cart before the horse because this is a monumental challenge in front of Denver to even get to this point, but I think he will be activated for the AFC Championship game, but I think you're probably talking about 5-8 touches, maybe, like very, very small. But that's the vibe I'm getting right now, is that he actually will be for the AFC Championship game if they get that far, but it'll be just a super limited touches.
I think if they had a realistic shot at the championship game, his practice window would already be open.
You think so? Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's a good
because
call.
I mean it's the next week, so get him in there, being able to get him out there and practicing a little bit more. It is a good sign. I wouldn't be surprised if they open his practice window next week, and if he does well, obviously he has that chance of being activated. And I think it could also depend on how the run game does this week. They might, try to push him out there a little bit more for even just a handful of carries. I still think it's less than 10% chance he's out there for the championship game, which is about where I was. It's definitely more of the Super Bowl than anything. But we have Coach Chris, since we're talking about players coming off of injured reserve, with a $20 super chat saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Broncos can only bring back 2 players from injured reserve in the playoffs. I assume they are holding one for JK, who would be the other. That means Wattenberg, Sanders, and Kroll would be out, correct? You are actually incorrect on this. So how it works is during the regular season, they get their 8 players that they can call up off of injured reserve. Any that they don't use carry over to the playoffs, and they get 2 extra. So you end up basically getting 10 if you make it to the playoffs. So Denver has only used 4, if I remember correctly, maybe 5 now. So they still have another 5 that they can still use for it. So they still have plenty of it to get all of those guys back. Unfortunately, we also got confirmation that Brandon Jones is done for the season. Right? I don't know if we've had a chance to talk about that, but Sean Payton, I would be said that he'd be surprised if he came back this year. So definitely not. But Luke Wattenberg sounds like he will be back for next week, most likely. From some things that I've seen, some conversations I've had. J.K. Dobbins, we were just talking about. Sanders and Kroll. I think there's a good chance Kroll is back next week, just because, to jump back into that, he offers more as a receiver than Atkins and Troutman, and even though he is a terrible blocker, he offers more as a blocker than Evan Ingram does. So he kind of offers just a little bit more in that Ingram role, where Ingram has obviously not lived up to expectations.
Yeah, I'm with you all that. And shout out to Coach Chris. Thank you so much. $20 super chat coming in here 2 times this morning. So really do appreciate you, Eric. I did have a few questions I wanted to ask you as well. Todd saying Brandon Jones being out a loss. It is. Good thing PJ Locke is not on the injury report. So that's good to get him back. We got Ozark coming in, saying I'm fixated on Troutman's blocking during screen passes. It's non-existent. I don't see it getting better versus Buffalo. I mean, you don't have to, you come to the right place, especially for Eric, for being frustrated at Troutman. Yeah, they need a wide tight end to update it. I don't know if you saw, like, Dallas Goedert had like 3 touchdowns in this playoff game or something. I was like, yes, give me, I know he's older, but like 2-year contract, bring in Dallas Goedert or Njoku or something like that. Just one of those guys that can actually function at a Y while still bringing a little bit in the pass game. I mean, even Sean Payton took a dig at Troutman in the end after the regular season, saying like, you needed 5 more catches. You average that in a year, paraphrasing. But Eric, I did have a few questions for you as we're starting to wrap it up here. I'm sure it's stuff we've talked about before, but I wanted to get your take on it. So if the Broncos win this game, who's going to be the MVP of the game for the Broncos, assuming they win?
Okay. I'm glad you asked, because when I was talking with Dylan, I kept hinting about wanting to get into this more. If Denver wants to win this game, they need RJ Harvey to be the MVP of this game. And the reason for that is actually simple. It's not just about what he does. It's about the changes he forces with the Bills defense. So the Bills defense, they love to sit in a cover 2 split field, too high defense. And they love to dare teams to run in that, which they've not been great. They've been one of the worst run defenses in the NFL this year.
Bottom 3.
And the issue with that is Bo Nix really struggles with those split field 2 high coverages that teams look at, especially those that leave them intermediate, 10 plus intermediate area of the field vulnerable like the Bills do. So Denver needs to get the run game going, because when teams get run game going, and I can't remember who it was, but I saw one of the defensive minded guys break this down, and he was saying that once teams get to about 7, depending on when, it's like, if the teams get to like 75 rushing yards in the first half, the Bills exclusively play cover 3 in the second half, or something to that effect. But anyways, the overarching point was, when teams run the ball, Bills change to cover 1 or cover 3, which is something that Bo Nix has done well against. And it's actually the 2 coverages that he does his best against. So Denver needs to figure out to get that run game going, because not only can it, run game help sustain long drives, help you put it ahead of the sticks, it also is going to force the Bills to change up what they do defensively and make things a little bit easier for Bo Nix in the passing game to help keep control of the game. So if Denver wants to win this game, the MVP has to be RJ Harvey.
Doesn't have to be McLaughlin
or McLaughlin. RJ Harvey, because even though the Bills do well they're like the 3rd or 4th best team in handling running backs out of the backfield and coverage. They showed some weaknesses there against the Jaguars, and some of the injuries that they're dealing are definitely impacting that. Jordan Poyer being out is a big one for it. Terrell Bernard also not being back, and the replacements that they have to keep rotating in at linebacker hurt that. So they've actually been more susceptible over the last 4 weeks to running backs out of the backfield. So I went with Harvey because of what he can do as a pass catcher. We don't really see that from Jaleel McLaughlin, but so I would say him. But McLaughlin also needs to be a part of that. Denver has to get a run game going, is basically what I'm trying to say.
I gotcha. Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with addition, changing the math for the Broncos, and Hufanga being the MVP. I think he's finally going to come away with a turnover in this one, and I think he is going to deliver some pain. I don't think the Bills are going to be able to work the ball vertically as much given the type of weapons that they have. So that means the Tasmanian Devil, as he plays out there, and Hufanga has a chance to really make some splash plays. And I'm hoping forced fumble, strip sack, interception, just some big hits. I mean, he brings an energy that I don't think this Broncos team will lay down and struggle against the run like they did last season. Again, it starts up front, but I'm going to go with Hufanga as the MVP there. What is your Broncos' biggest concern in this one? You said your MVP if the Broncos win was that, but my biggest concern is Harvey in this one coming in, just because as everything you said, he has not run the ball well this season. Now he's been a really useful player because of what he's done in the pass game, but right now he's not there yet. The game speed, picking the lanes, how to attack different creases, when to go, what he sees is just not there right now. The game doesn't seem like it's slowed down for him there. Maybe it never will, but right now he's not a good runner of the football down to down, and that makes him the biggest concern for me because the Bills are going to invite Denver to run the football. They're going to play put an umbrella on top of the coverage, and that means Denver has to take advantage of that and force them out of that. So my biggest concern, and I didn't give you the list, so you probably would have put Harvey maybe here as well. You can say him again too, Eric, but he's my biggest concern. He needs to show up.
Now, real quick with Hufanga, I want to say that I'm glad that you mentioned him because I absolutely love his comment that he made about wanting to play the Bills. Because he's like, I wanted them after you play them with the loss, you're angry about it. He goes, even though I wasn't here, I'm angry about the loss they had now a year ago. And I like that mindset. And, he just always has such a good mindset when it comes to playing defense and always seems to be so focused. So glad you mentioned him. If, I agree with you in terms of defensive MVP, it definitely needs to be him and being a difference maker that they brought him in to be. But again, it's just got to go back for me. It has to go back to getting the offense going. And my biggest concern is going to be RJ Harvey as well. It's if they can't get this run, or I should say run game in general, because if they can't, I really struggle to see Bo Nix getting going just because of what he has done against these split shell coverages has not been great. He's actually, if you make it specifically against that, he's been the worst quarterback, maybe second worst quarterback in the NFL against these split field coverages. And it's not even close. Like he's not even close to being, in the top half or outside of the bottom 10 or even the bottom 5. He is far and away one of the worst. And so it's if you can't get that run game going and get it to where you can alleviate that pressure off your quarterback in his only second playoff start against a very experienced playoff team, against a team that they do, despite all their issues with defense, they actually have a pretty good passing defense. So you got to do whatever you can to do that. So if Denver cannot get that run game going, I will be worried all game long and hope that Bo Nix is able to buck the trend and be able to figure it out. And maybe the extra rest and extra time to prepare for this, we're ready for it. So it is, again, it's got to be the run game just because of the domino effect that it has with everything else within this offense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. Renaissance Man has come in saying that fans were sensitive. If you're talking about us, I don't think we've said a negative thing about the Bills here on this one. Maybe he's just saying in general. I've maybe, and the algorithm on Twitter, puts what you want to see in front of it. But I've seen Bills fans saying like, this is the most enjoyable fan base we've dealt with in multiple years. So, I mean, there's always, some annoying fans, but yeah, it's hopefully not an issue. But thanks for coming in, Renaissance Man. Hopefully a good game if you are a Bills fan coming in here. And keeping it going here, we got I wanted to ask you the biggest dark horse difference maker also for this Broncos game. For me, I think it's going to be, oh man, I've been leaning in between a few of them. I think it's got to be Marvin Mims on that one for the Broncos because of the explosive. It's going to be really hard to create explosive plays for the Broncos, I think, in general, with the umbrella coverage of the Bills play. And also you got the special teams ability as well. And Mims, I mean, we've seen him. He's not going to be a volume player by any means, but with the trickeration in the run game, special teams added, and the explosiveness in the pass game, maybe some yak screen ability underneath as well. Marvin Mims is definitely my dark horse difference maker for this game.
Marvin Mims is a good one. When he first mentioned it, he was one that popped to mind just because I know the Bills are not great on punt coverage. They definitely have a weakness there, and so Marvin Mims is a good one. I'm gonna go with Riley Moss actually with this one, with the way that with the receivers that they have. And earlier we had somebody talk about, Denver playing zone. This is a game they should play man. Josh Allen really struggles with man coverage. He is bottom 5, I think, in DVOA against man coverage. A lot of, the other metrics, the success rate, the completion percentage, the passer rating, all those, and on target throw percentage, turnovers, basically everything is bottom 5, bottom 10 for Josh Allen against man coverage. And so with Patrick Surtain, obviously, I think that with the quality of receivers that they're dealing with, I think that they're going to, probably try to focus him on tight ends or maybe Khalil Shakur. So I think this is a big one for Riley Moss and really wanting to bounce back because of all the issues that he had. Again, I talked about it earlier with Dylan, the missed tackles that went for almost 100 yards against the Jaguars on 2 missed tackles from him. Ever since he put on boxing gloves, he's losing his assignments a little bit more. There's been more coverage busts with him over recent weeks, including a big one in that Jaguars game. So I think that he is going to want to essentially flip the script with the narrative about him and go out there with this one and capitalize on what may be a slightly better matchup for him with those quality of receivers and go out there and try and play big. One concern, though, is that the Broncos are one of the worst passing defenses when it comes to non-number 1 or number 2 receivers. So the other guys' receivers, they are concerned there. And basically the Bills receiver core is Khalil Shakur, who's 1 or 2, and then a bunch of other guys.
Yeah. Okay, Eric, now I'm going to ask, I got a few more here that I wrote up last night. So I was, didn't mean to get here late, but I knock it off on the chat, guys. Come on. Dad's not happy. I want the matchup of the game. So Bills player versus Broncos player. What's the one that you're really keen in on this one? I'm going to say mine first, and you can leave it to the other side if you want, but I think it's pretty obvious to me looking at this, but it's the Broncos edge rushers versus their tackles because of the size difference. I mean, Dean Dawkins is, let's see the weight here listed, 320, 325. Spencer Brown is 315. I'm sure he's bigger than that, 320. And you got the Broncos edge rushers playing there, 250 maybe. So you're talking about a 70-pound difference, and we really felt that last year in the game. So I'll go specifically Bonitto versus Dawkins. If you remember, Eric, I love Dawkins coming out of that draft, so I'm happy to see that he's done well. Second round pick. I think he was he in that Bulls draft or was he in the draft after or before? I don't remember. Yeah, really good out of Temple. Had a really good career. Heck of a run blocker. But again, Broncos doing your work on first and second down. They have an advantage on the defensive line on first and on the offensive line on first and second down because they're so big. But I do think that if you can win those early downs, you can do some exotic stuff on third and long and get after them. It really, I don't know if you remember the Falcons-Bills game this season, but the Falcons are lighter as well up front. I don't know if they have a guy over 310 pounds, and they're very blitz-oriented, and they beat the absolute heck out of the Bills, but they did well on first and second down, and Cook still got some of his, but they were really able to game up some matchups with the pass rush and get after Allen. So I'm going to go with Dawkins versus Bonitto. I could have just as easily gone Brown versus Cooper, but I think that is the key matchup of the game.
Yeah, and Dawkins he was the second to last pick in that 2017 of the second round in that 2017 NFL draft.
Heck of a player.
Yeah, really, I remember, absolutely fawning over him as well. Oh man, this is tough because I do 5K matchups on both sides of the ball every single week. It's one of my pre-game stuff that I do. And there's a lot that you can pick from in this one. Can I cheat and say Sean Payton versus Sean McDermott?
Ooh, that is yes, you can. I love it. Say more.
Okay. Again, the run game. I cannot understate the importance of getting a run game going in this one. Sean McDermott, I think he's a good defensive coach. I think he's a really good defensive mind. I think what he does, especially with the way he disguises coverage, I mean, what he's throwing at you, and you still can't read it pre-snap because he disguises it so well. And it's very frustrating. When I was going over my film study for the Bills this week, it was so frustrating trying to figure out what they were going to be doing on any given down. Even though you knew that it was going to be 99% of cover 2 unless the team was running the ball, then it's going to be cover 1 or cover 3. So Sean Payton has to make sure that he gets not only Bo Nix ready, but he has to make sure he's ready for this. We've seen it the time before, and he made a joke about it. He's going to run the ball on his play sheet this week. He made some joke about it like he did in the Chargers game. Well, here's the concerning news. In that Chargers game, they ran the ball like 8 times for a point when they had a lead and going into early in the second half. So they didn't run the ball, even though he wrote it on there, and it became, such a joke here. He can't get away from the run game too quickly. He's got to get whatever the issue has been in the red zone. He's got to get that figured out. We went from where the offense was struggling between the 20s, but doing really well in the red zone to where they're doing really well between the 20s, as well as getting some breaks with punt returns and a couple takeaways over the last few weeks, and then struggling in the red zone, being unable to reliably punch it in. He's got to figure that out. There is so much for him that he's got to figure out with this offense, with their not just the play calling issues that he started to show, but the execution errors that are going on, and figuring that out. Going back to the run game here, the Bills, the two types of runs that they do the worst against, they're bottom 5 in both these: man blocks and outside zone. Those are the two that the Broncos run the most, and they run them quite well. So then again, run the ball, help out your quarterback, and then when it gets to the passing game, make sure you have your quarterback coached up on how to read the defense, what are the keys, and making sure that you're calling the plays to properly attack them based off of what coverage they seem to be going, and look into their tendencies. The tendencies, what they do against the run, and how they change up their coverages based off that.
I love it. One final thing, we haven't talked about him hardly at all, but it's probably the most important thing for the Broncos. We just need to talk a little bit of Bo Nix. So what is the one thing that Bo Nix has to do in this game for the Broncos to win? Obviously, unless he comes out and plays like that Packers game, the discourse around him is not going to dramatically change, I wouldn't expect. But still, he's the quarterback. He probably is the most important factor of this game. Like if he plays like he did against the Packers, Denver probably has enough talent advantage and healthy enough to beat the Bills. But I want to hear what you think about Bo Nix. What's the one thing that he has to do in this game, or walk away like statistically, like he did this, Denver wins. I know it's probably easy to say, not turn the ball over. That's an easy one. Let's not lean into that one. That's obvious.
I think there's two things.
Okay, good.
The intermediate middle part of the field, especially against the split field coverages, because the Bills leave that pretty much wide open, and it's only gotten worse with the injuries with their separate linebacker, and use his legs. The Bills are averaging almost 10 yards per carry to quarterback scrambles because they just don't account for them, and it's consistent. Even if they are playing quarterbacks who use their legs a little bit more, they just do not account for them once they get out of the pocket. They don't make that shift with their defense to take that in consideration. It's like 9.3 yards per scramble average on the season against them. So use his legs when he gets out of the pocket. Don't be afraid of it. Not only with how bad they are, but just how much that can fire up those around you. So if the Broncos are struggling on offense, turn to your legs, help use that to motivate other people. Be smart about it, of course. Don't put your body at risk. Don't take the unnecessary hits. So I think those are the two things that we really need to see out of Bo Nix with this one. Use those legs, especially when the opening is there, and attack the intermediate of the field. If the run game can't get going to where they switch up their defense, you got to be able to hit the intermediate of the field. Earlier, I think it was Coach Chris came in with the super chat talking about a big game for Pat Bryant. I think this could be a big game for Pat Bryant because of what he can do in that intermediate area of the field, and Cortland Sutton as well.
I love it. For me, Bo Nix's ability to convert on third downs and keep the offense on the field is going to be key now. Granted, probably more important what happens on first and second down in general from the offense, but Bo Nix, we've seen the last few games, his ability to use his legs and be an athlete in space. And the Bills right now, they're not the best at the second level. I mean, you have Matt Milano, but was he an all-pro ever? He's a decent linebacker, but he's had injuries a little bit. And then you have Shaq Thompson, who actually showed up on the injury report this week playing out that linebacker as well. So they're speedy, but they're small. So I'm hoping that Bo Nix, with his athletic ability and some space, can shrug off a few tackles at the second level. Now, obviously, you want to protect yourself, but there's going to be eyes on the quarterback with the defense they play. I'm hoping that he can use his athleticism to buy some time and create on those third downs and pick up. I mean, just barely get into the pylon, but the sticks counts. So Bo Nix third down, you won't necessarily call it magic, although he does have that ability, but the creativity to extend plays and convert on those third downs, staying on the field, chewing up the clock, and keeping the Bills and Josh Allen off the field, because last season you could see it, the dam broke for the Broncos last season. And one day you can help against a run offense that is bigger than you and more physical than you, size-wise, coming downhill on you repeatedly, is give them less reps, keep them on the side of the field, tire their defense out, keep their offense cold. So obviously third down key, red zone key, turnovers key. How are they going to manage to create explosives in this one, Eric? I do worry about that as well. I mean, I trust Sean Payton, but with how the Bills play, can you run the ball well enough to get them out of defenses where you can then hunt explosives? It's going to be such a chess match, but a lot of fun. Thank you guys for holding down and setting up the show as my alarm failed to go off. Phone's still dead, so hopefully my wife isn't texting me like crazy. But I'm your guys here for the next 2 minutes as we read us on out. Shout out to Perry West coming in here. Of course, Coach Chris a couple times. Everybody joining us in mostly their best behavior on the chat. We appreciate you. Follow and Eric and I on Twitter. Eric is at Erick Trickel. I'm at Nik MHH. Also follow Dylan Von Arks at Dylan Von Arks MHH. We're over at Mile High Huddle. You can follow us at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as that ticker shows there underneath, number one way you can help us, other than super chats, of course, and becoming a member, is subscribing to Mile High Huddle over on YouTube, liking the show, and sharing on your social media platform. Click those thumbs up, all that good stuff. Hopefully everyone has a good weekend. Enjoy it. I guess I'm kind of glad the Broncos play the first game Saturday, because we don't have to have the anticipation of like waiting. Like, it's just like, let it happen. And also, if Denver wins, maybe it's a slight advantage. You get one extra day versus what's probably going to be a pretty physical game in Houston, with Houston versus the Patriots. But got to take care of business at home first. Got to take business at home. So appreciate everyone. Eric, any final thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I just had one thing, or actually two things. One, I mentioned Nick scrambling in the Bills defense, 9.4 yards. It's 2 yards more than the second lowest. That's how bad the Bills are against that. And second one, I just wanted to get your opinion on this real quick. It doesn't deal with the Bills game, but it deals with coaching staff stuff. I know you and I, we've talked privately about this, but there's a lot of talk about Jim Leonhard and Vance Joseph both leaving the Broncos this year. Either Jim Leonhard following going to Dallas or going to the New York Giants. He seems to be a finalist to be Harbaugh, John, whichever Harbaugh it is. I can never remember which is which. Be his defensive coordinator there. Are you worried at all about Denver potentially losing both these guys?
I'm not potentially worried about Denver losing both. Now, would it be somewhat unfortunate? Yes, but there's a lot of good defensive coordinator talent available, and the Broncos have a lot of defensive talent and a pretty well-run ship. Now, maybe some people would be deterred by working with Sean Payton, but I mean, we've seen he's had 2 defensive coordinators now rise up to become head coaches, and he had a type of defense that he wanted to run, and he listened to Vance Joseph and his defensive staff and allowed them to change it following that 70-20 Miami loss 3 years ago. Now, yeah, 3 years ago, it wasn't last year. So I think that, whether it be, obviously a lot of people are talking about, Morris, from Raheem Morris potentially being an option. You got Anthony Weaver out there. Patrick Graham was fired, but I've really liked what he's done with very little talent pretty much everywhere he's gone to. I'm sure there's a few other names that I'm missing as well, Eric, but if you ended up losing both those guys, like I don't think Denver lets Leonhard walk out the door unless they're okay with letting Leonhard walk out the door, assuming Vance Joseph gets a head coaching spot. And there's other defensive talent available. So we'll cross that bridge and worry about it when we get to it. But Denver, I think, is going to be fine there. And you're going to have a little bit of turnover and change anyway, with VJ leaving and probably taking some coaches with him. So we'll see. But I'm not necessarily worried about it.
Yeah, I'm not either. In terms of Jim Leonhard, the sense I've gotten is that he may not be the in-house favorite to replace Vance Joseph anyways. They definitely like him and they definitely want to keep him around, but I'm not sure if it was necessarily as defensive coordinator, not yet anyways. Definitely a lot of defensive guys out there. I'm glad you mentioned Patrick Graham. I would absolutely love him with the work that he's done there with the Raiders, and how infuriating he can be. One name that I've seen, and I've seen conflicting reports on this. I've seen somebody say that his contract was only 1 year. So when his team gets eliminated from the playoffs, he can be a potential defensive coordinator candidate. I've also seen Denver potentially trading for him as a defensive coordinator if his contract's not up, and that's Dennis Allen. I hope to God it's not a trade if they do want to go that way, because trading for a head coach is fine. It's worked out well for Denver. Trading for a coordinator, hard no on that one.
Yeah, dumb. Although I will say, if there's a year to do it, it's this draft. Because this draft is pretty stinky. I think right now, whoever Denver is going to be picking at 26 through 32 range is probably somebody that would have gone like 50 last season.
Yeah,
like it's the mocks are always going to be like, God, I don't know what to do. I hate all of the options. But you know, it is what it is.
And we trade down.
Yeah, or trade for a vet. God,
yeah.
That's the move. But appreciate everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Man, it's here. I'm nervous. I'm excited. Eric, it's frozen on a really good face for you too. You look like you're just like, oh, okay. Well, now you're back, but you look like you're really enjoying what I was saying. So that's great. As normal. But appreciate everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Beat the Bills. Go Broncos.